Okay, let's see if that works. Which microphone am I using? Is it going to behave with that one, or are just going to ignore it completely? That's an annoyance, I suppose. Need to get a little adapter or something to treat that properly. Alright, well, MacBook it is then. And I've got all the administrative bits out the way. I can just get back to whatever the hell I'm up to. How slow does this go? Quite. Okay. I need to do something clever. No, maybe not. It actually holds up pretty well. Technically. Oh! That's a bug from yesterday that I wouldn't have found otherwise. Okay. I suppose that I need to put that in. Code from yesterday. Hello! Sorry, I'm just figuring out what I want to do today. Long day, so I'm probably not going to do anything of particularly high energy. It's kind of silly though. Actually, I'm going to bring that back in. Yeah, because you shouldn't be able to do that. So I need a reachability check for each of these, not just a valid movement check. Okay. Let's see if I can just hammer that out real quick. I'm doing this often enough now that I can probably pull this into the game model. So, so you get the line between your start and end, and then if any of them are solid, then just return false, because there's not a path between them. There is, or at least there is a straight path between them, which is mostly what I care about here. Just be explicit about naming, I suppose. It's a really interesting thing, actually. I'm on my own at the moment in my home, and the only reason, well, I'm not talking to anybody all day, so the only time I've spoken to anybody is on stream, and even then, whether that qualifies as people, I don't know. But like, you can feel that my voice hasn't been used for the whole day because I've said no words. It's bizarre. Yeah, thought. And this has made this quite ugly. So let's bring that out. Is there a nice way of doing that I can break the line on, or is that going to cause compiler issues if I try and do that? Is you're basically saying if that tile, if all of the tiles are solid, if they're all solid, or I can't get to them from where I am going in a straight line, then I need to crash basically. So I need to figure out where to go. Did I break it? I did. Just an extra thing from my refactoring there. This needs to go and grab in hexagon for the hex type because I haven't used it in the model yet. Okay, so now that'll run. Oh. But then I don't have access to the game anymore because it's already the game, so I can just do is tile solid. I really do need to name this API better, but oh yeah, it's fine. Cool, removing. So I really, well, it really needs to tell the player that they can't use those ones. So I'll do that in a bit. But in theory, I could. Well, it doesn't. Okay, so I'm over here now, which would have been invalid because I would have been off the page. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Okay, so that broke a lot of things, actually, because it's letting you pick unreachable spaces, which is bad, I guess. So, kind of needs to do that check. Right, so you move somewhere. In this case, it's fine. But for this case, I shouldn't be able to pick any of those. So I pick that one. But they don't count as crashing because I still have a valid move at that speed. That's like bullet tunneling, really. Did I basically mess up the... movement? I suppose I did, didn't I? Because I went over here and I should have done all of this bit over here. Like that. Sorry, just checking my phone. I'm actually really tired, so this may not last that long. But I wanted to do a little bit, just because it's important to me to do a bit of this game every day to make progress forward, otherwise you can easily lose track of things. Right, so if I moved in a valid manner, suppose I could have... Oh, that's interesting. There's a lot of bits and pieces there that I've sort of broken up. So see what's going on. Yeah, my brain's not firing properly right now. Because it's definitely not meant to jump over the wall like that, so I've clearly used the wrong bit. Projection. And flip this thing now. If I get a solid one, I have to stop and come back the other way. Bam, bam. And so that at least doesn't get treated as invalid. But it's still doing something a bit strange. So why does it say that that one is invalid? So the move is valid if and only if you've got a straight path between the 2 points. Why would it think it's not straight? Classic debugging style, I guess. Oh, that's why it's that, because I've actually capped the maximum speed at 7, which is outside of the visible range because this is just drawing a dumb circle. Okay, I need to fix that. So, let's go do that. Three, 4, so 5, so 6. Because at that point you're at maximum speed, so your only option is to slow down and kind of steer. or maintain speed. So that's what you get. That makes sense. So you do that, and then you crash, and then you slam into the wall. So then the other thing is... And then you only get those for valid moves, so you crash into that and you crash. And then those are only valid moves, you go that way, you go that way, you go that way, you zoom, you zoom, you zoom. Four, five, six, now we're cruising. I guess I need to actually slow down a bit when I do that. Correct, and that's good. Kind of like how if you don't move the mouse, you actually get quite a good feel out of the movement controls when you do that. Crash. Cool, I think we fixed the movement again. Good. Fantastic. Hello. Just messing around with how the UI presents valid options for movement. Hey, werewolf. I'm assuming that's what you'd kind of want to be called. Yeah, I spotted a couple of things. I made the map bigger and then realized that you could tunnel through the solid wall to the other side. Which is not really what you want in a race, so I fixed that. And I've also made it so that it shows you better where you're actually allowed to move to. So at speed 5, so that's 5 hexes away. So at the top speed is 6 at the moment. So if we go to 6, you can see how I've got this reduced number of squares that I can go to, because that's the 6th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I wanted to slow down or steer slightly, that's the options that you get. I was thinking about doing away with these two at top speed as a sort of penalty, but it's fine for now. Yeah, so that's a nice thing. I'm sort of just battle testing it a bit more. And yeah, so it's also not showing you the solid wall as a valid option, because that was sort of unclear. So that's nice. Oh, yeah, but then it does that, you see. So it needs to track back to moves I can actually reach from where I am. So let's go do that as well. I'm okay. I'm really tired today, which is not conducive to the best streaming ever. But all things considered, I'm pretty good. I was saying earlier that I haven't actually spoken really to anybody all day because I'm on my own at the moment. So the first time I really spoke this today was just as I started the stream, and you could kind of feel it in my voice. But otherwise, I'm in a good mood. I'm feeling pretty good about things. But definitely not doing any high intensity code things today. So it's important to do a little every day. It doesn't always have to be. It doesn't always have to be big sweeping changes. It can just be a small thing, refactoring a thing that's clunky or whatever. As long as you do something every day, you make progress. And that's really how I get things done on personal projects like this. And when I work on Dome for long periods as well, doing a little every day really pushes you forward. This is actually quite ugly looking. I kind of want to change it. It's always tricky when you've got a functional style of code, and it looks kind of nice when you start with that, and then you sort of add a condition, then you add another condition, and suddenly it ends up being the full span of my terminal, and it looks ugly. So I'm going to just make this into a loop now. Hex. Oh, that's actually using that, so great. Well, really I'm doing that the wrong way around. Let me put that up here. And that's results. And that's results. And then surrounding will equal results at the end. Wait though, because then but then you can't filter it because it's been used in both places, so you actually need a second one. Yeah, because I'm filtering, so it's sort of problematic. And nope, screw it. Well, let's undo all that and start back with the functional one. Okay. Pretty sure I can do line breaks here. Like that. The things that you have to check in order to know if a move is valid is getting kind of ridiculous. So model is straight line between the actor.position and the hex that I'm pointing at. Does that just break the compiler, or is that all good? Yeah, it doesn't like it. Okay. Why is that? That's that one. Let's just bring it down here. Oh, straight path between. What the hell kind of naming was that meant to be? I like APIs that sort of read like a sentence, because at least then when you're saying it out loud it sort of means something, but it does mean that occasionally you forget what you set a function to be, which can lead to some awkwardness. Right. So that's actually recalculating that every frame, that's annoying. That'll crash, obviously, but it's fine, because we're just checking if we can get up to speed. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think that's what I wanted, because then 5 squares away, the current speed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, would put me here. So then you can't see the things on this side anymore, so that looks like that worked. And then you crash because you only have so many choices. Which I guess could feel bad if the only choices presented to you suck, but I don't know. You have to crash eventually, right? Oh, for sure. Yeah, you get used to a language the more you use it, and because um, I sort of learned Ren while making Dome, so you kind of just learn them simultaneously, and it's not just the language. I sort of have to internalize its API that comes in the language and the stuff that I've written as well. So I definitely wouldn't say I'm a master at it, but I definitely use it to a competent level. Let's put it that way. I'm competent with Ren. It's a competency. It's a really small language, so it doesn't take that much to learn, if I'm honest. That there are quirks, the things that really catch you out are things that you might not run into unless you're doing something weird. Like, for example, the way that it handles new lines in code is a bit strange compared to other languages. I'll show you in a moment. So, just want to check this. Yeah, we crashed. Cool. Right, so just to prove my point here, where was I doing? So this thing here is a list that I've got. So this underscore surrounding is a list. And I'm doing a filtering operation on that list, and to do so you pass it a lambda function, just a function that would decide whether a given item in that list satisfies it or not. I'm assuming that you don't necessarily know much about functional type language, but you might do. I don't know who's watching. So you have this thing, and that's what this represents here is your block brackets define a function. Now I had this written earlier as surrounding dot where. Doesn't really matter. Hex, and then I had just hex like that. So this thing here, and this has a single. It's got a single statement in it with no new lines. So it basically takes the result of this and returns it as a method. The function by default will return the value of this statement. But if you start putting in a new line and something else, then it stops doing that. It switches out of a sort of automatic return mode to doing other things. So then you have to basically go and do a return manually. And those are things that you might not realize until you start playing with it more extensively. The other half of this was that I was doing some other condition thing like that or whatever. Take that out. And obviously it was getting quite long, so I wanted it to be on different lines. If you broke the line here, it would see this in the interpreter sees the no. It'll be the compiler, the scanner bit, the bit that reads what Ren is written as and breaks it down, would see this as a valid statement and then say, yep, that's fine, that's what you meant to write. And then come down here and be like, hey, wait a minute, you've written a thing here that should have something before it. What did you do? And then it'll break, I think. So you have to basically put the ampersands on the other end. And then it goes, okay, I'm going to the end. This is a statement. This is an operator. There should be something here. Let's go to the next line. And that's what it's doing. Some people in other languages like to put their operators at the start of the next line, and I don't. Let's check it. Let's see if it works. Because I could be talking out my ass. Or remembering another language. That's the other thing. I work in a lot of different languages, so I could have just thought that this was how it would behave. Most likely, I think this is going to break. But I could be wrong. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so it basically checks if the end of the line is valid, and then carries on based on that. And this is actually a problem for a certain. This is getting fixed actually in the next version of Wren, I think. I mean, Ruby would be able to tell you better, but a common style of API design is called fluent design, or fluent API, where you have some object and it's got a width, and you put a number in, and then you carry on and you chain on the next thing, and it'd be like its height is v, and then it might have I don't know, a name is Bob. I'm going to bring all this stuff out here again just for demonstration purposes. And people, this is quite a common pattern that you see in various languages, and what ends up happening is it gets quite long, so people want to do that and bring it down to the next line. And as I've just described, Wren will think this is meant to be valid, and then come down here and be like, oh, this is a period, there should be something here, and then break. And it's a problem because this is a really popular way of designing things. So you can't do that in Wren at the moment, which sucks. Because there are things I wanted to do with Dome that you can't do like that. But I think that's meant to be fixed in a later version of Wren, because I think the interpreter's being changed to accommodate that. But I don't really mind. There are better ways, or slightly better ways, I think, of achieving a similar goal, because what I would probably do is like object.new, and then I have like a map with width, and you could do the same thing, kind of like that, and you get a similar sort of fluent result. And I have used that pattern somewhere. Yeah, let me go fix my ampersands after that demonstration. Sorry, that was a bit of a rant, if I'm honest. I do like explaining stuff. I'm just probably not the best teacher. But when you spend as much time around an environment as I have with this, you do pick up its inner workings a lot more. Sorry. I think that's good. Yep, we ran. It runs. Cool. Now I need to do a little bit of performance stuff, because it's actually recalculating that every frame, and it doesn't need to do that, because it only changes when you've actually moved. Oh, wow, my brain is not working there. Equals. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You learn by doing it and picking up on the common mistakes, and that's the thing that you'll often see happen, is that I'll have written something and it'll break, and I'll look very quickly at the error message and be like, that's what I forgot from that time, and then go in and fix it again. And it's like zero effort debugging, because I know exactly what I did. It's just that the compiler's not quite smart enough to just figure out what I wanted it to do the first time around, which could be a bother for some people, but usually the error messages are quite good. You usually end up in the right file, in the right position for where an error has occurred in your syntax, which is a really good thing, actually. A lot of languages are quite bad at that. I guess what I could do is basically say, if there's not a surrounding at the moment, because I've unset it, go and calculate it. And then if I've gone and made a move, the syntax highlighting in Vim is a little bit janky around ren, so that's why you sometimes see things flickering in and out like that. Player.action has been set. Then standing equals null. Oh, I broke something though. 139. Wait, what? How on earth is that not a thing that exists? Player does not implement action, but it's... But it... What? No. Oh, it doesn't. It's because you can set it, but you're not... Yeah, okay. That's fair. That's the thing that you do sometimes realize is that everything is private to start with, and you have to explicitly allow access to stuff. Okay. But then that's just empty. Wrong file. Yeah, because now you can see over here that it's not just recalculating every single time. So I do that, and then it broke. Okay, all right, okay. Not perfect. I can do better. It's because I'm actually using that in multiple places. So there we go. I guess technically you're a frame behind because of what I just did there. Because it basically would try to calculate that stuff. Let me go have a look at that again. Yeah, so it's like you need this stuff here. But the order of it ends up being okay. That I've not done for a long time. All right. Yeah, because you basically end up saying that it's like that. So if no action has been set, then we can unset this. No, if we, no, that's in the wrong place. Okay, no, that needs to go back down here. How did I just lose the? Okay, fine. Right, so if there's no input, you calculate an input here. But no, I think it actually works out fine. I think it works out okay. Although this loop here is not. Well, no, it is for every user. So you kind of want to, yeah. I mean, yeah. It's a kludge, but I'm leaving it alone for the moment. I'm going to fix that later when I'm a little less tired, I think. So what I'm complaining about is that this little engine, in the technical term here, meaning the turn-based structure that this code base is built on, does have a quite heavy separation between the view and the model. The sort of underlying turn-based nature is handled separately from the visuals, but the bit that figures out this range of squares is being done in the view and not the model. So at some point I need to move it out from the view back into the model and then reference it once. But until I do that, it's fine. I do like how movement feels. It is MV. Well, it's MVC is a weird one here because there's not like the view is really a view controller. It's sort of doing both jobs. I mean, I'll be honest, I've actually struggled in the past with figuring out what the difference is sometimes between view and a view controller and a controller generally. But it's sort of the idea is that you have the model which is managing the game state, and then the view is basically pushing input into it and rendering out the results every turn. So it sort of just says simulate one turn and then give me the results from it. Simulate the next turn. MVC, as you sort of see in applications, doesn't apply so well most of the time to games, but this is the closest you'd probably get to it. I wouldn't do this sort of structure with most games. It's just because of the way that turn-based stuff works. This is the nicest approach that I found, and if I'm honest, I stole this approach from somebody else. This engine is based on an article by Bob Nystrom, who also created REM, and it just goes into great detail about the sort of general philosophy behind it, and it works really well. So I've been using it kind of religiously. I'm going to quickly grab a link to that. I'll post that in the chat, I think, because it's well, I suppose searching for it is fairly easy as well. But let me just it's stuff with stuff, isn't it? There we go. Let's see, I even got it in my history. But this article basically goes into, I mean, it's for a roguelike, but I'm using the same engine that I would use for a roguelike here. But it basically goes into the issues around trying to use a standard style game engine with a turn-based game, because you're not doing the same thing that most games do, where the state is changing every single tick. So you basically break it up into a model that can be manually ticked when it is appropriate to, and a view that is doing everything else. So the view is running every turn, and the model is only running when there's something to do. I'm just going to type this into the chat from my phone, so hopefully I don't mistype it, but I'm also leaving it on screen, so you should be able to just copy it from there, in the worst case. Turn-based game group. Done. I think that worked. Yeah, and there's a bunch of other little articles and things on here. It is a goldmine. Actually, Bob's book, Game Programming Patterns, is kind of my Bible as well. So a lot of my game dev has been influenced by him in some way or another, which is sort of weird. But anyway. Yeah. Oh, that's true. I mean, it does. It does definitely work. It's just it seems sort of accidental that the same person has created a bunch of different things that I use regularly. Because I found him through his book. Because Game Programming Patterns is a fantastic book, and it's free online, and I have a physical copy somewhere. Um, and then I discovered Ren, and then I wanted to use Ren to make a roguelike. So that kind of ordering, and you end up back in the same place each time. Bob's newest book, Crafting Interpreters, is also really useful because it goes through how to make an interpreted compiler and bytecode interpreter, and it uses a lot of very similar machinery to how Ren has been implemented. So when I was making PR requests to the main Ren repo, it was very helpful to get a grip on what was happening. So I mean, if you haven't done any sort of compilers work before, it is a really good introduction to that sort of thing. And once it becomes a physical book, I am buying it because I want it on my shelf. Take a drink real quick. Okay. That was bug fixing. I don't really have any other major code things I want to do today. I guess it would be, I don't know. Okay, so this is a weird situation. I moved in a direction, but the interpreted position of it puts it slightly sideways from where I would be. I mean that yeah, because the direction I previously moved was at a slight angle, so let's put it at a slight angle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that would kind of be an illegal move, but that's an interesting edge case. I suppose it's not the worst. I don't even know how I triggered that state, if I'm honest. That's a bit. Maybe I need to limit the directions to one of those 6, but then it probably makes steering a lot less smooth. But I don't want people to sort of accidentally or intentionally get extra space of movement out of it, because yeah, so the speed up here is 6, so you shouldn't be able to move more than 6 spaces away. So 6, so that's your furthest there. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. I suppose in real distance, it isn't further, so that's probably fine. I guess that's what's happening. If you were to count it space by space, the distance would be bigger. It's a different metric. I think I'm okay with that. It might be good though. I don't know. Is it better, like having a line show the direction that you're moving? Is that a good thing, or is that too much? It's hard to tell. I'm not focusing too much on the aesthetics here. But... So, anyway, yeah. There's a few different things I'd like to do next on the to-do list. I wanted to basically get to the point where there is a starting line and a finishing line, and do something when you cross over the finish line. But to do that, I probably have to draw a bunch of art for the tiles that would make up the starting line. I have this list, and the way that I sort my list for things in a game is I sort of try and boil it down to the essential gameplay experience, and like what is the minimum that I need to call it a game rather than just a art thing or a toy or whatever. So I think that having a start, a finish, a vehicle is just about enough, and everything else is kind of extra. Because at the very least, you could track like how many turns it took to get from one space to from start to finish and call it done. As like a timed trial thing. I mean, it wouldn't be the most fun, but it would be a game. Turns out giving scores to things makes a lot of it very competitive, or at least makes it feel like a game rather than just a thing that you do, an activity, I guess. So yeah, once I sort of get this movement down, I wanted to move into having that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Make it work, make it pretty, make it fast. That's the right order for things, in my opinion, most of the time anyway. So this is me making it work. I really wanted to have this sort of mechanic down because I didn't know if it would be sensible. It's sort of it's an unusual thing that no one, or that I've not seen really in other games. So I had to see what it was like as a prototype first, and it behaves. So, I mean, yeah, okay. Oh, that was awkward. So, Dome is actually working quite hard at the moment to render all of the hexagons, which means that it does occasionally skip an input if you're not careful. So I need to probably put something into view that doesn't, so that it doesn't draw things that are off screen. I mean, the back end isn't actually drawing anything. It knows when to put a pixel on screen or not, but it's still trying to draw the other tiles wherever they are, which isn't ideal because this map implementation is really dumb. So let's draw a map here. So we need to do, well, okay, so the problem with this is that the map is actually not a yeah, so the map is stored as a hash map, so there's no real easy way of getting just the single hexes that are on screen, is there? I mean, there must be. There must be. But I need to, basically, rather than taking the full list of all possible hexes, I need to filter it or make requests to it in some way. Let me think. Oh yeah, I need some stuff. So I'm using a tutorial for doing the hex map things from Red Blob Games over here, because all of the hexagon stuff is so far out of my comfort zone, and this has a lot of the implementation detail already handled. So I might just be able to figure out what I want to do from here. Oh, I suppose. Yeah, it's a lot of different work from what I'm used to. I'm like, I can do square grids in my sleep now. I've done them so many times in different ways. But there's me trying to do something new. So Yeah, I mean, the reason I went with hexes on purpose because for a game about driving a vehicle, I thought that steering would need that sort of extra rotation to it because it's almost a circle or close enough that you can kind of imagine it as a circle. So it's important to me that this game has hexes. It makes it tricky. Okay, so what I know is I can get the top and bottom corners of the screen as hex values because I can go layout dot pixel 2 hex 0 0 and it'll calculate based on the current screen configuration what hex that actually is. And I can do the same thing for the bottom. Oop. Like that. I probably need to do this for all of them. Oh, that's a 0. Yeah. Because then I can basically be like, give me periodic points and then create those hexes. Sorry, just to do something real quick. Yeah. So I basically need to, I know what the size of the map is, right? Because I can go. Well, I know what the size. How do you do? Oh, because it's not actual square grids. So that's actually quite tricky because you've got this hexes are crossways, but the coordinate system doesn't directly allow you to do that. Well, maybe it'd be fine. You'd kind of get a weird square rendering. Oh, that's the wrong screen. So the issue, can I find it in here? Is it in the implementation guide? Yeah, it's in the implementation guide, I think. So, because I'm using flat-topped hexagons, rectangles basically end up looking like these, where you end up in different shapes. So I suppose we kind of end up like this one, so you could still do that. Sorry, I'm just reading this real quick. Sorry, just spacing out slightly. Okay. I need to. How do I do that? I have to print out some stuff before I can really get an idea of what's happening. I kind of wish that I had a debugger rather than doing this sort of inspective debugging that you have to do in some systems. Although, to be honest, even if I had a debugger, I probably would still do this because it is mostly fairly convenient. I do that when I'm working on JavaScript things will work as well. Oh, layout does not do that, apparently. Oh, that's because I'm an idiot. Okay. The reason is because it's expecting a different type, and rather than implement that type correctly, I'm just going to put in a shortcut. Okay, it's method overloading. Did I put in an extra bracket too many there, or am I good? I'm good, okay. Right, so that's an ungodly mess, but we can see one line of these. Like that. So hex coordinates are basically done as Q, R, and S, but because it's being done as a cube on a plane, Q, R, and S have to add together to equal 0. And that means that you basically just ignore the S because it's like that most of the time. Well, there's a way of making the S completely cancel out. It's not actually required. So you can kind of ignore it. And I do for the most part, but they do have to add to 0 to have valid hexes. But the Q in this case does move around a bit, so let me just pull up a diagram again. Because I've got this thing going on, so minus 12. Yeah, I don't actually know how to iterate over a space like that without doing some really horrible piece. Maybe I need to change my approach rather than trying to calculate it by hexes. I could calculate it pixel-wise, but that's nasty because then I have to basically do other stuff. I think the idea is that I am supposed to use this kind of loop. Okay, we'll try it like that. Sorry, I had my phone doing a thing. Okay. Copy, paste, and code, sort of. So in this case, we do the R in 0 to the map height. Yeah, because I'm basically trying to reach that kind of thing. But I've got a different shape here, so. I suppose we can just sort of try it and see how we do. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 21. 6, 7, 8, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Yeah, I'm sort of blindly typing in stuff now because I don't always understand this, and I'm more tired to do it than I think would be a good idea. Bring that up here. Pixels dot add X.new QR. Put a lot of things there. Now, it does help to have all the braces. Thank you. Yes, okay, so that, I mean, it didn't work here, obviously, but it's interesting to see what we do end up rendering when you try that approach. And it is not a rectangle. That's very clear. But that's closer to the gist of what we want, and then, yeah, so it could be that I have these two the wrong way around. I did that over 2. Quite often you just miss stuff. Oh, that's actually like that as well, for what it's worth. Not that it changed anything. That's okay. Probably the yeah. What if we do that to that? Because now we're going full screen on that side. The center of the map is 0 in my setup, so you have to be able to go into negative Q's and R's, which is what was not happening before. That's different. I mean, really, I should be changing it for these, but now I'm just guessing. Closer. Not perfect, but so the thing that's happening at the moment that's quite interesting is that I'm not actually updating which region should be drawn based on the position of the player, which is why you can kind of just see this persist. Oh, I guess you could kind of go the other way, and you could say, get me. Yeah, okay. Let's try this a slightly different way, just to see what happens. Because you can kind of feed any algorithm in here to get a list of hexes, and it'll kind of work. So you could just do hexes equals layout.origin get surrounding. I think that's what I called it. No. X.get surrounding layout.origin. But it's actually pixel to hex because the origin is a hex. And 12. This is the dumb way to do this. Because then, okay, so what you're seeing now is that basically, this gets a list of a hexagon of 12 around the player and just draws those ones. So as I move, okay, so that didn't work there because I was hoping they would draw further. Not quite, because it's not changing, but maybe I just need to draw the map differently. So I need to go back to view, draw map, put in the player, dot position. Yeah, now you can see that you fog of war, well, not really fog of war, but it basically gives you the list of things up to a certain distance away. So if you make that distance big enough, then you cover the whole screen, which is great. But it's a trade-off in efficiency because you end up overdrawing off-screen a certain amount based on the size of your screen and your hexes. This covers most of the screen, but I'm still trimming off the top and the bottom. And probably some of the sides. Yeah. We can actually test that because I've got manual controls there. Well, there's no way to see how far off the screen we're walking, but so, I mean, what you could do is say you can only see some number of squares ahead of you, but that isn't very pleasant, and most games rarely do that without a good reason. So really, what people expect to see is something like this, where you can kind of see the whole map in the surrounding area, but it is still drawing and adding in new bits as you go further up until you get to the edge. I am kind of cheating by using this thing. I need to stop that printing as well. That didn't end up being as helpful as I hoped it would be. It was an interesting consideration of our approach, though. This didn't help, although it's because... Oh, I guess because you're meant to read the whole thing and actually change the order. Because that's what I was doing before, wasn't it? So if I wanted that one, it would actually have to be S and R. Let's just do this to sate my curiosity. So because this is an interesting thing. So as I was saying, all of the three parameters for a hex coordinate here have to equal 0. So if you've got a positive R and a positive S, then you can deduce Q by subtracting from both. So I never actually need all three. It just helps for certain kinds of calculations. But I have to take that one off. I do this check just to see what happens. Well, it's different. It's not really what I wanted. But that could be for any number of reasons. just assume the map is square. No, it's doing something bizarre. Because I wanted that one, which is S and then R. But it's not actually giving me S. Offset. So if I just flip those two for fun, do I get something interesting? No, I think I would just stick with the dumb approach for now. It is good enough. Because here at least you can see that every bit of the screen is being drawn on. We're just going to get a little bit of overdraw, but it means that no matter what the map size is, we have a fixed size that we'll try to draw. It's doing something a bit odd in the corner there. You see that? It's still got a little bit of overdraw. Well, yeah, you're right. It is. You have to know when to stop chipping at something. I think that there's a bit of a... That is a bug, I think, in how Dome is handling things. So I have to go and fix that later. It's not meant to do that, but it's fine. No, it seems to have just disappeared. So, and then the map's there. Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. I'm going to leave that as is. No, because it is actually cut off here. What the hell? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay. That looks a lot better. I'm just going to debug scroll around a bit. It looks okay. I'm seeing the bits of the map that I would expect to see. I mean, the map is hexagonal, so I wouldn't expect to see anything else up here. But then when I'm far enough away, the top is still full block coloured. And the map itself is actually going up there, so that's fine. That's reasonable. 2, 4, 5, 6. Actually, I can do it this way. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's more like, yeah. I mean, I'll leave it. I'm just going to commit. I've not committed for a while. Better map. Okay. I can't believe that I've been streaming for an hour and a half already. Alright, I think I'm going to call it a night. Thank you so much to everybody for watching me flail and ramble at this. It's been interesting. I hope that you all have a wonderful evening, wherever you are in the world. I really need some sleep, so have a good one, and yeah. I think I'll probably do one of these tomorrow around this sort of time. Maybe the day after. We'll see. As I said, I'm trying out streaming and I'm trying to do a little bit of development every day, so they kind of coincide and it's easy enough to turn the camera on. But yeah, have a good one. Bye everybody. Quick question. Can you still hear me like this? I'm not sure if anyone can, so just let me know in the chat if you can still hear me. Okay, that's awkward and bizarre. All right, thanks. Have a good one.